day I used to make a bread of, a milk bread or banana bread or sourdough bread. And I was actually photographing it so that maybe after a year or 5 years from now, when I look back at 2020, I mean, food is something which will be the highlight for me in terms of a form of art, a form of meditation, a form of joy for me. During the lockdown, I I'm heavily drawn towards art, and in fact, all my travel, whether they're holidays or work travel, they're centered around food, cocktails, and a lot of art. So, as a routine, as a everyday life, I think I'm surrounded by it, and I think I enjoy it. Um, I collect ceramics and plates and objects which can be used to present food in the most unique way. In fact, I'm running out of space now in terms of storing all the plates and the ceramics. And I work with a lot of ceramic artists and potters, to make special plates or objects or cutlery for me. And one of the key things I think during the lockdown was getting inspired from a plate or a form of art. Like I love yellow. Well, you can see around me, and this is an artwork of just having fun with colors. I did in 2017, where I was heavily drawn by the Gutai movement, and when I followed it and I read more about it, there was something which just felt good. And I was drawn towards it. When I saw the first traveling exhibition in Paris, I saw many different forms of the Gutai movement. But Shiraga, who did the artwork using paint and using his hands and foot and legs, as a action to for the strokes, using his inertia. So I think for me, this painting, what I did was a form of reflection that there is no direction, there is no discipline, there is no right or wrong. It's just like, this is my action, and the viewer's reaction is something which translate into this form of art, where I tried using different food pigments, from squid ink being black to saffron being bright yellow, and I combined them together and kind of blended them in a way where they kind of just were very similar. Like when I actually kept the pasta in front of the artwork, I was blown away myself. This is so immersive. You're eating a pasta which is actually on the wall in a very similar way. So I think for me it was Pollock meets Gutai in the kitchen on the pasta roller. So that was a lot of fun. I made a lot of breads. I remember during the lockdown getting inspired from Fontana, where I did different strokes and different patterns of scoring on the bread, which were very, very interesting. Some came really, really good. Some were terribly bad experiments, but everything was eaten and not thrown. I also did blue cheese cones recently, inspired by a plate, which was a limited edition Malevich inspired plates, where I wanted to form a composition on the plate where the triangular cone matched the circle and the lines on the plate, and it just looked so stunning. When I served it, like, nobody wanted to eat it. Of course, everybody was photographing it, but I think that's the joy. I think which I think all my friends and people at home enjoy, because meals at home are not. I take every meal very seriously. I make sure that if I'm eating at home, I make sure I do my own table setup, and with the kind of mood that I'm in, probably. Dots are something which you will see very, very dominant, from my wardrobe to the house to even the dishes that I'm doing. In fact, another pasta that I did was with all dots and on a bright yellow plate, on a little napkin which I bought from Tokyo, from the Kasuma museum. So it just was like an illusion of dots. And all of this, I think, during the lockdown was a lot of fun, for sure. So even presently, I'm kind of sketching and imagining a few dishes which are totally inspired from art. I think Soluit and some other artists are references, where I'm kind of composing the dishes and putting them together, but I still don't know how I would achieve a dish which will have the right flavors. It's delicious, but again, it kind of is inspired from the artwork. As I was actually telling a friend day before that, I think I'm also dreaming about food, and she was like, "Okay, that's really not good because I'm constantly have a little diary, and I constantly keep writing ideas. Right from a sabzi mandi to any store or any ingredient that I click a picture and I quickly write down that this is something that I could use at some point of time. So when Architectural Digest, reached out to me that we were doing a page which was about food inspired from architecture, and the theme was Christmas. And I instantly knew that it cannot be a usual Christmas tree or a Dundee cake or a panettone or a plum pudding. No, I mean, that was very clear. That's to be expected. I wanted to translate my dish into something which is inspired from time. And last year, time was really stretched. We've all gone through it, and we all understand what it was. I wanted to signify what we went through in terms of time and how it was stretched in a point of celebration, which was Christmas, of course. And for me, it was a tree of hope. As I said previously, I love geometry. So when I'd gone to Jantar Mantar, I instantly knew, and I'd gone for a walk, and I instantly, while looking at it, imagined the Samrat Yantra, which is the biggest, the majestic triangular form of instrument used to measure every hour. And it is one of the most precise instruments which the Maharaja made. For me, instantly, that was one side of the Christmas tree where I thought that the most fundamental element for Christmas is gingerbread. And I made a full stencil. It took almost 2 weeks to plan the entire process and make a stencil and a diagram, which went through multiple changes because it wasn't so easy to make a bigger piece of a stencil of gingerbread because, the bread shrinks and the cookies expanded. So the entire house and kitchen smelled of cinnamon and cookie for, I think, almost a week. And all my meals were just eating cookie, either dipping it into jam or cream or whatever. But the entire process of constructing it from scratch from a diagram, from thought to paper to into the oven tray. And the oven tray, like, I think I made almost close to 5 kgs of cookie in different forms, right from the staircase to little, pavement of the structure. And when it came out, I think I was very, very happy with it because I wanted to photograph it in a way where the staircase are towards the viewer vertically, and the reflection on both the sides of the window form the sides of a Christmas tree. And the tip of the triangular structure also has the pole star. That's how it was designed. So for me, that was the imaginary star for my Christmas tree. Again, it was gingerbread, it was celebration, it was all edible. And in fact, I called to children around the neighborhood and I'm like, let's just break it and eat it. And they were like, no, it's too pretty, I'm going to save it. And so the entire process, I think, was very, very nice. And it really came out quite beautifully. The first rule which I kind of definitely move forward when I'm cooking food or plating is that there is no right or wrong. I think that's the best part because it gives you freedom, at least for me. And in terms of the art of plating, I think the comparison in between the two art forms, whether it's painting or on any medium or material. Similarly with food, I think for me, when I'm kind of composing a menu or a dish, I think for me, I imagine a focal point. I also sketch a lot in terms of food, which you'll see a couple of pictures, on your screen, where if I'm planning a menu or a special dish, I definitely draw it out. I pay attention to the plate, which whatever shape or form or material it is, a focal point where the dish is placed and how convenient it is for the for the person eating it in terms of cutting it or the angles around it. Height and scale is very important because that totally depends on how the food is placed, what is the cut of the ingredients that are being used. Colors and textures super important for me because at times I play with just one ingredient and change the texture in multiple forms to probably a aerated foam to something which is very crisp, crunchy at the same time, a gel fluid texture. um, yeah, I think similarly to art in terms of a painting, which definitely needs a frame around it, but at times it does not even need a frame around it. So I've also done food plating, which have just been on a table or just been on a fabric or just on a napkin. And recently, in fact, I did a little table for four where I did a experiential table, which was basically about how visually and sensory mediums could be used to enjoy food. Of course, we all know, being born and raised in India to, enjoy food while eating with your hands. But I kind of used the palm or different fingers as to, if you lick food, what are the sensations that are created. It's been a joy cooking, and it's been even more wonderful feeding people. I realized as I was coming to the first point, I realized that there was a lot of friends who delivered babies, and I couldn't meet them. So I used to make these little small cakes, carrot cakes or whatever, banana bread, and send it to them. There was also a time when a friend of mine lost one of his parents, and I realized that how food is so important during the time when you're absolutely in a situation of remorse, and how food played such an important part in adding some kind of warmth to that situation. These are all my experiences, which I realized that food not just is about celebration, but it also connects us to very smaller elements, right from birth to death to every day as we kind of progress. And during the lockdown, I think I understood food much closer. I came much more closer to my ingredients, to the entire process of cooking what I was doing. And it was not just about creating something, it was just translating my thoughts into flavors and food that I would genuinely enjoy eating. Whether it's banana bread or the beaten coffee or the sourdough bread, which took the internet by storm completely. To an extent where I remember during the lockdown when I used to go and buy basic maida, the flour, and the guy said that we've run out of it. We've never sold like 10 to 15 kgs of flour in a day. Like yeast was a privilege. Like I had a lot frozen in my freezer, but I was doing a little exchange of barter for yeast and some other things. So it was really a fun way where everybody, I think, wanted to get into cooking. We could see a range of home chefs, I think, emerged completely. So I think food really connected all of us together throughout the world. I mean, there were recipes floating through the internet where everybody was trying it out. And I mean, between me, my neighborhood, and the household, I think there was a lot of exchange of food between friends and people living around. So I think it definitely sculpted, elements of humanity being together. And as you said, it created a bond which I think all of us will remember.